Order the Monday, June 5th meeting of the City of Monona Finance and Personnel Committee. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder DePula.
Here.
Alder Wood is excused. Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the May 1st, May 11th, and May 12th meetings?
Motion approved. Yes. Sorry.
I'll second. Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Do we have any appearances?
No, he's part of the renewal and all.
You're just here to observe, right? Okay. With there are no appearances, there is no unfinished business. Item under new business, item 6A, consideration and possible action on Renew Monona Loan Program request for Aaron and Emily Embury, 302 Ela Terrace. Is there a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
I will second. Doug?
I would go up there for now. Yeah.
There's a trampoline over in there. The new fitness initiative.
Good evening. This first Renew Monona loan application is for 302 Ela Terrace. The project would be the addition of a fourth legal bedroom in the basement. It's approximately 13 feet by 11 feet. The scope would include an egress window, closet, access panel framing, drywall, insulation and finishes, as well as plumbing and electrical work associated with that. I did just want to point out sort of a discrepancy between the application form and the staff report that I make mention of. The maximum city assistance can be 50%, 50 of the total project cost. And so the maximum loan request here, which is being requested, is $11,375. The CDA did vote to waive review of requests less than $50,000 in May of 2021, instead delegating that review to city staff. So the materials in the packet do sort of outline this. Just a couple of highlights. The eligibility of the project is based on the total assessed value of the property, and as of the first of this year, for the property at 302 Ela, this was $359,000. And the eligibility requirements is to be 120% of the median assessed value of residential properties of the same date, first of the year, and that is just over or just under 462,000. So the property is eligible in that means. And in terms of the scope, it would be an addition, sort of additional living space to the main structure, which is a eligible requirement of that major home rehab project. For the other 50%, we always ask this of the applicant how they plan to fund the other portion of the project. The applicants plan to use either personal savings or their home equity line of credit to finance their portion, which again would be $11,375. In terms of the scope, they're about 30 to 60 days out, the contractors, so upon decision of this, the applicant will be looking to move forward. So with that, staff recommends approval of the request following finance and personnel review and discussion of the materials. Thank you.
Any questions?
I have none.
I don't have any either. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is item B, consideration of possible action on Renew Monona Loan Program request for Jeremy and Heidi Deuce, 4906 Schofield Street. Is there a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
I will second.
Thank you. So second Renew Monona application, as mentioned at 4906 Schofield. The project scope for this would be to remove an existing deck replaced by a 10 by 18 four-season room, as well as the removal and replacement of the existing driveway and the addition of a new front stoop and steps. Again, with the application here, there was a discrepancy between the 50% and what was requested. So the loan amount here would be just under $43,000. It would be $42,870, which would be 50%, 50, of the total project cost. And I should mention both applications had full estimates within that, which is needed as part of the application. So that's all included in the packet as well. So for this one, the total assessed value was $276,600, which again falls within the 120% of the median assessed value, meeting the eligibility requirements. And again, this is under the Major Home Rehab Program, which does include the addition of significant improvement, living space, or the significant improvement to the living space, both of which these projects meet. In terms of the financing, again, the applicant plans to use a combination of personal savings and home equity line of credit, and looking for the driveway work to begin pretty shortly here, mid-June, and the four-season renewal further out into the fall of this year. The CDA did review this at their meeting in late May and unanimously recommended approval. Thanks. And we have the applicant here this evening as well.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions, Patrick?
No question.
I don't either. I was at CDA, so I listened to the presentation then. Looks like a nice project, so. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, item 6C, consideration of resolution 23-6-2625, a resolution to approve purchase of a 2025 Pierce engine. Is there a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
I will second. Chief McMullen.
Good evening. This particular resolution, our apparatus committee's been working almost a year on the replacement engine due to the replacement cycle that was previously adopted by the city. They forwarded me their recommendation finally. I believe they started with 6 companies when they put the RFP out to determine which companies were not only interested in providing us a truck, but which ones could actually meet our specifications. Came down to 2. Pierce is our current provider, has provided all the other trucks that we currently have that are either engines or ladders. And Custom Fire is the other one, which is out of Minnesota. Pierce is a Wisconsin company. We have had some issues with Pierce with our last engine. We've had some warranty and other issues that they've been working at correcting. They've gotten a lot better in the last several months, even before we were talking about the truck. But one of the things that the apparatus committee came back with for both companies was the need for a 5-year warranty on the truck. Bumper to bumper, labor, parts, everything, for Pierce to even be in the conversation, which they actually did. They came back in writing. They're going to provide a 5-year warranty on the truck at a minimum. There's actually most components that actually have a bigger warranty than that, as did Custom Fire. There's naysayers on both sides for both companies. If you could ask 10 people, you'll probably get 10 different answers on what truck is the best and which one is the worst. I gave the apparatus committee the guidance and the ability to make the decision and forward me their recommendations. I included Captain Boyd's document in, I believe, I don't know if it's in this or if it's also in the council packet. And you can see the amount of work that he put into it. He's one of our volunteer captains. Most of the members on the committee are volunteer. They've put in, at last count, close to 800 hours of time, going through the spec books, literally page by page. So when they come to me as a recommendation, I'm not going to overrule them. I'm going to let you guys made the decision. Chief Eckloff's on there, Chief Miller's on there, Captain Boyd, Lieutenant Hayden. We have a retired Chris Biernig is on the committee and continue to come participate even after he retired. So have a really good group of people. The unfortunate thing is with the current environment, it is a 26 to 28 month lead time for vehicles. For us to get a delivery in November of 25, we have to order it within the next month, which is why it's in front of the finance and council now. The hard cost on it is $643,000. Plus or minus a couple $100. The 2 competing proposals were within $1,000 of each other. We can get it down to $616,000 if it was prepaid at contract signing, which is not possible. We're not looking for that. But what Pierce does offer is a continuous prepayment. So whenever we choose to prepay it, so it can be, if we put it in the 24 capital budget and it's April of 24 when that gets funded, they'll tailor the prepayment to that. You basically add $1,000 for every month that you wait from the 616. So that's what it is for tonight, is to sign the contract for delivery in November of 25.
Any questions?
Yes. Just what's the expected lifespan of this vehicle in
So
service?
the 20 years is what the operating lifespan of the trucks has been, but I will tell you that 20-year lifespan for an engine was set back when we were a lot slower department than what we are now. The goal with going this direction with the engine is the box will last 20 years. So probably in the 10 to 12 year range, we'll just remount it on a new commercial chassis. So we get a refreshed truck on a commercial chassis and we get the full 20 years out of it. Can it go 15 or 20 years? Most likely, even the chassis, but that's kind of where the guidance was with this. If we go with a custom chassis like what our current engine is, I can tell you the price would be about $160,000 more to be able to get that extended lifespan. So it's kind of a 6 of one, half a dozen of another. We went this route because it's easier to get parts for the chassis. There's literally thousands of Freightliners sold every year, so these parts are very easy to get. They're not in back stock like when you take a Pearson and it's got a custom chassis. They may or may not have the parts for it, and they have to try and figure out where to get them.
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I've
glad
got a
that you
couple of
put-
questions.
okay.
Do you have more, Patrick?
No, I just want to say I'm glad that thought was into the modularity of the vehicle. So,
I'm surprised to hear that these would be good for 20 years, because I was always under the impression we had to order a new truck like every 6 years. So this truck we now have is, with the engine we have is now how old?
Ambulance-wise, we order them every 6 years.
Okay.
Fire trucks have had a longer lifespan.
Okay.
So like the ladder replacement schedule is 25 years.
Right.
Engines are 20 years on the current replacement schedule. All other, the smaller vehicles are generally 15 years, but the ambulances we actually moved it to 5 last year just because the call volume is such that we're, right now on the one that we just got in 19, we've got close to 70,000 miles on.
And I get
ambulance.
that. I'm just concerned about the engine. If it's 20 years, why are we ordering a new one like 5 years later? We haven't had the one we have now for that long.
No, we have 2 engines. So there's the engine that we got in 2017 replaced the old engine 2, which was a 96, I think, or
Okay.
95. And it also replaced the heavy squad that we sold last year.
So how old is their older engine that we have now?
The old engine is a 2004. It's 20 years old this year.
Okay. And the one we got in 2017 is one we've had all these problems with,
Yes.
right? Okay.
And that one's slated for replacement in 2037 on the
Okay.
replacement schedule.
and that was the Pierce, right?
Yes. They look deeply at the Pierce because they've had Pierce for many years. This
Yeah.
is the only truck they've had problems with, which, again, they all felt that it was more of a lemon than a consistent problem that would move forward.
Have they heard of any other departments who've been having issues with Pierce? in the last
Again,
few years?
you ask 10 people, if I talk to the DeForest chief, he hates Pierce and he loves Custom Fire. If you talk to Green Bay, they hate Custom Fire and they love Pierce. And
But did you hear of anybody who's actually had the kind of problems that
this
we've
this
had?
extent, no.
Okay.
There are more problems industry-wide with the DEF standards, unfortunately. The engines just don't hold up well under the ultra-low sulfur fuel. But it sounds like that's actually going to get worse, not better. So,
And the price is guaranteed. The way we save money is by paying for it more quickly. Is that
Correct.
The price will be the same? But did you say this morning that the chassis?
Chassis is not.
Any
any
change
chassis
that
price
is a
increases,
guarantee?
and that actually was all 6 of the providers that came back, that they're not liable for chassis increase prices because they don't control that. They control their portion of it, which is the box and the install and all that. That 643 is the price plus or minus whatever chassis changes may come about over the next 2 years, depending on when they order it. If they can get it in and get it ordered in the next 8 months, knowing what the lead time is, it may not have an increase. If they have to wait 10 months to get to that model year that they're looking for, it may be a 5% increase in the chassis price, but not, so it'd be
But the box is guaranteed.
correct.
Okay. I guess my only other question is that, a few years ago, when you were first hired, during that first year we met, and we were talking about different options of getting a new truck, and you had mentioned the possibility, you thought it might be better to get like a small pumper, I think is what you called it. That isn't what this is it?
It's not as small as what I envisioned. Again, the guardrails I gave the apparatus committee were pretty wide. I gave them the suggestion of a mini pumper, and they looked at it. It just couldn't carry what we needed it to
Okay.
carry with the size that they'd be able to put out. We looked heavily at the mini pumper. It simply doesn't carry enough water.
And so but is this the same size as the newer one we got in 2017?
Way smaller.
It's way smaller, okay.
Yes, this is about the size of our existing engine. It's actually a little bit smaller than that. So total length on this one we're talking about is 33 feet. The engine 2, the one we bought in 2017, is 41 feet. It's a big truck. This is shorter and shorter in both dimensions, both in length and height.
Okay. I guess those were all my questions.
This is not the first one goes out. Engine 2 goes out first, correct?
Correct. This would go out first, but we're also making some changes to that to put other vehicles out first instead of the engines, which will help lengthen the lifespan of these trucks. And that's part of the problem. Engine 2 goes out on everything, even if there's only one person. So we're making changes that if it's only one person on shift, that third full-timer, they'll be taking the new brush truck out. They will not be taking an engine out.
That makes sense.
They'll
Because
reduce the load a little bit.
The engine goes when the ambulance goes, right?
Yeah.
And there's always a need for an engine necessarily.
For the most part, for EMS calls, no, the brush truck will work just fine.
Okay, okay. Anything else? All right, do we need a roll call on this? I'll go ahead and do a roll call.
Yeah, just in
Please
case.
call the roll.
Because they're not
Alder
really.
DePula,
Aye.
Mayor O'Connor.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Jerry. Next item D, consideration of resolution 23-6-2627, authorization to order a police vehicle for delivery in 2024. Is there a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve?
I will second. Chief,
Good evening. Although not as dire as the fire department situation, we are in a similar situation. So, previous council before this approved as a capital item a 2023 Ford F-150. I explained then the reasons that we need a utility truck for our purposes, and I just had several examples last week of bicycles and debris on roadways and the belt line that we're responsible for picking up, and the belt line truck isn't there. So we definitely need the bed, and we were really excited and eager when council approved it, and as soon as that meeting was over, we go to look to acquire a pickup truck and was told that we missed the window of opportunity to purchase that pickup truck. And so just based on how the timing is of this council's and the city's budget season, we need to think ahead. So in lieu of getting a vehicle, well, let me just back up. We just last week we delivered our second 2022 authorized vehicle just last week. So that gives you an idea of where the delays are, where the production delays are, et cetera. So I'm looking for authorization to order a 2024 vehicle when the window of opportunity to do so is available this year, instead of waiting until it's too late.
Alder?
Again, can you refresh why we're looking at the pickup truck exactly? Because I think, did you mention before that it was like due to the size of some of the officers in some regards
Yep.
and their gear, right?
Yep. So that was a factor too, of course. Some of the officers, with all their gear, the size that they are in, the fact that the Ford SUVs are smaller than the Crown Victorias and the space that they allow for officers to move back. The adjustable pedals aren't there anymore as an option. The F-150s, in my opinion, it's a work accommodation that I think we need to honor, and it's a safety issue too. Heaven forbid one of our sizable officers gets into a crash.
Gotcha. And just because I'm not super familiar with the acquisition of police vehicles, the Ford F-150 has a police interceptor model like Chrysler doesn't, or are those options, or I don't know, or is it just the only game in town?
Nope,
Pretty much.
there are several options. This is the best.
Okay.
Is the Ford F-150, and yes, it's a police interceptor package. So it's similar to our SUVs, but this is a pickup truck.
Okay. And I guess my final question on the pickup truck is, what's the difference in price between the Explorer and the pickup?
You're talking roughly about a $15,000 difference in the price. The pickup truck's obviously bigger car, bigger mass. The production model is more sought after because it's a pickup truck. They make so few of those for police versus what they make for SUVs for police. And so you're going to run a higher cost. Now, we could, if council so authorizes, we could work out of the state bid, but we would be paying the price for that too. So we worked with the state bid contract to get the lowest secured price and ordered the car to our specificity. We might not need all the bells and whistles that, say, Mount Horeb would get on their squad. We don't need the 30,000 lights that they might order. We can supplement that somewhat, but we don't necessarily need all the bells and whistles.
Or perhaps the disco ball that Wanakee would order.
Right. Right. I'm all about lighting and safety, don't get me wrong, but yeah.
But and durability, I assume, is higher with a pickup truck, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, we've not owned one before. I mean, the city has owned them, right? But we've not had a police interceptor model. And asking around and calling around even locally here in Dane County, so far all the agencies have been very pleased with them. So much so that some agencies want to go full-time and have their entire fleet. That doesn't speak to our sustainability goals here in Monona, so we won't do that. But so much so that they're looking at increasing their fleet with the F-150s.
Okay. Thank you.
So so I'm straight on this. We originally were going to order this truck for this year, the 23 capital budget, and that was the only vehicle you were going to order. And then what had you planned to order for 24?
Two vehicles. So in addition to this vehicle, you're going to hear me later this budget season ask for one more vehicle.
Because
my squad is.
Because in place of this one, you ordered a 23 model.
Ordered an SUV versus a pickup truck, which we've yet to receive.
Okay, I was just curious. So.
Yep.
So we're getting the same. We're going to be ordering the same number of vehicles. We're just ordering them in a different order.
Well,
And
you're
some
actually
will be
authorizing
similar.
something for next year's budget.
Right, but I mean, we had.
Yeah,
that was
it's already
in the
been
budget for next
pre-approved. It's already been approved, assuming that we would have this in hand this year,
Right.
and that's not the case.
It's part of the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of my.
So we're not ordering anything extra.
Correct.
It's just mixing up when we're getting them.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder DePula.
Aye.
Mayor O'Connor.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. Next item, ordinance 6- Consideration of ordinance 6-23-766, amending section 367-1 of the Code of Ordinances relating to short-term rental properties and establishing a fee. We're going to have Planner Plowman discuss this in a minute, I think. Are you, or
Group discussion, I
a
think.
group discussion?
Yeah.
Patrick, when just a little bit of update, and Mark, feel free to add on to this. When the council passed this ordinance a few months ago, and then staff has since met with the company that produces the software that Madison uses that enables you to find all of the short-term rentals in the city, and we've purchased that, haven't we? Do we have it already or not?
We have signed a contract.
Okay. And I actually sat in on that meeting. It's really amazing what this can do.
Less than $5,000.
Yeah, the price is less than $5,000.
That's great.
But in going through, as council airs, the staff are implementing this, there just became obvious that and talking to people in Madison, in their department that handles this, it just became very apparent that there are some definite issues with our ordinance. So we asked Bill to come up with a red line for some changes to make it, it's just, some of the things that we were requiring in the original ordinance are really impossible to enforce.
Yep.
So do we want to, Mark, do you have anything?
Yeah, so basically that was one of the things is, there's two really big changes in here. There was one, it was for the STRs, if you rented more than 15 days, then you have to be required to get a permit. Just talking to Madison's and the other communities, none of those communities really have like a grace period. It's either one or none, and you get charged the fee. Yep. So we kind of looked at how we would do it, and it's really to monitor that 15 days. It's almost impossible for staff to do that. So with the software, what we'd like to make sure we can actually force this ordinance is to eliminate the 15 days, which is It's on the first page, Exhibit A, number 1.
Yeah, I read through it. And
Yeah.
That makes sense, and I knew this was
Yeah.
going to be a working ordinance. As
So
we-
that was one thing, and Madison told us also, we want, before anybody can advertise, that they must come in and pay the fee, because they're saying that's really the only teeth they have, is they can, basically the software will show us when somebody actually puts it on Airbnb or whatever, it pings the system, so they know right away who just listed. So if they pings right away and they have not filed anything, they're able, Madison is able to go after that person, say you can't list until you follow the ordinance. So we kind of want to follow that same principle, that you must fill out the paperwork for the permit before you can advertise with that. So that's one of the biggest things we're looking at. I think the other one.
And are they fined then if they don't follow that?
Yeah, there is fines in here, yes. And Doug, I don't know if you want to touch on the 180 days.
Yes, so the other element was with regard to the sort of period of operation. And so typically, in sort of comparing against other communities, the language is really, 180-day period of sort of availability of rentals, so just under half, within a 365-day period is sort of typical. And so in discussion, again, just to offer flexibility to applicants and to allow them to sort of set the schedule, instead of the city defining that being, say, April through October or something like that. The proposal here is that there's, you can see this as 6 30-day chunks, that you can use starting on either the 1st or the 15th, and you can use that moving forward to total the 180 days, and that would be included in the application form and kind of called out initially. And so I did look, the question had come up of, how do other municipalities use that, and I pulled up the information, the spreadsheet that was shared sort of when this first came out, sort of late last year, early this year, and I was looking at that. Most communities do just sort of pick 180 days consecutive, so I think we would be offering some more flexibility, and that, I think is definitely a discussion to be had, but more flexibility, but again, it would be sort of set up front, and the applicants can certainly choose consecutive, 6 months consecutive, but they can also, elect to choose something over the holidays and, different times throughout the year as well. So it was seen as, giving some flexibility whilst also remaining in that, total period as well.
So in that system too, again, if their dates are, say they just do April and not May, and it pings in May, we know they're not in violation, that they're trying to rent it even though they're not matching up to what their permit says. So that's a way that we can monitor that system. And the monitoring would be done by our code enforcement, which is John currently.
Because if it's just 180 days, whenever, it would be impossible.
It'd be impossible because we just know it's listed, we just don't know if it was actually rented that day.
And I should say that the red line version of that, which I believe is in the packet, that is coming at the expense of the sort of one visitor or one booking every 7 days. And again, that was from a sort of enforcement perspective, and the intent there, as we certainly saw it, was really to offer relief to residents, to neighbors, and from the rentals. And so the 180 days is sort of a similar way of doing that, which is more enforceable and easier to track. Again, if that's been elected during the application form, and we find there's not supposed to be a rental during, say, October, we find it listed, then again it's more straightforward from an enforcement perspective.
And that would, you talked about that would eliminate the 7 days on there.
Mm-hmm.
There were the 3 biggest changes. The other one would be the fee.
Well, wait, we still have the one that Bill just emailed us about. Originally, it said that,
Oh. Yes, what is it?
let me read this, because I don't know, it was H, item H, under the original item H. If an operator
Oh, no, we're 29 days.
does not occupy the residence at the time of rental, the STR may operate no more than 30 days per permitting year. Well, the state law says we have to allow them to operate at least 180 days of the year, right?
Correct.
So there's no way we can restrict it just 1 month out of a year.
Mhm.
So we're going to have to remove that.
Oh, yeah. And Bill will be here to go over one of these details, in more details. And then page 47, just want to hit the annual fees schedules. So the annual permit fees we looked at is $750. With research and talking with the software provider, what they usually see is 3 times an annual night, so medium, and it was like 258, I believe, 257. So we just took that times 3, which is 750. But what that really entitles to, we have the code enforcement, we have the software, and when they fill this out, the building inspector actually has to inspect it, and we have to have fire chief would have to be involved to look over the plans too. So and the clerk. So we believe that this will capture that. So that's why we went with the 750 for that. And we also went in there, say if, we leave that in there, say that leave the 15 days in there. You can still have the 15 days in there or less. If they can prove to us that they didn't rented more than 15 days, that we refund 50% of that cost. What we required as part of the permitting fees is they have to require to give us quarterly reports that shows what days are rented, and so that we can track that. So, because people might just do like a football game here or there, so we do kind of want to be fair, and if they can prove that, we would refund 50%.
Is that every? So Patrick, do you have any questions or?
I do not. No, I agree with the changes. So
Should actually, I suppose we could have.
Just pass it on to.
Yeah, we didn't really have a motion, did we? No. Yeah, unless you have anything else, we can just make a motion to forward it on to council with what our recommendation that we approve. Is that
yeah,
for them to?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Did you get that, Aline? And I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. Next item is acceptance of general fund accounts payable checks dated May 12th through June 1st, 2023. Documentation of invoices paid is available in the city clerk's office.
Yes, and just kind of run through here quick, in a couple minutes here. Page 48, Alex Burleson, which is our attorney. The general municipal matters are right in line with just the general legal fees. Redevelopment, they are all paid with TIF. And just so you know, talking with Bill, he, with his annual increase, I told him he can increase the development cost a little bit more than the general. So there's so the fee per hour is higher for development than it is for just general. So when he increased his rates for 2023. Best goal is our retiree health insurance people. So you have a couple of people that we convert their sick leave into health insurance when they retire. Page 51, just GEC, which is our engineering for April. They are starting to pick up a little bit more right now. Page 54, architecture planning, Maywood Park master plan. Just so I think we'll eventually talk about today coming back here. It's part of the Reach 64 project, and I think we'll eventually, when the new administrator starts too, so he gets an update on too, do a presentation to the council and explain what Reach 64 is and how that all works. And the park is part of this Reach 64. Like page 59, just Amazon Capital Services, it's all park and rec. They're in full swing right now. Pool was open this weekend. If you see a lot of communities like DeForest, Wanakee, so basically these are seatbelt grants, OWI traffic grants. So what happens is we administer the grants, we collect the money, and then we pay the other municipalities. Part of this agreement is we could keep a little extra money for doing the admin work. So Kurt Weigel, is it Sergeant Weigel? He's the one who administers it and does all the work for us. So so we do get extra money for doing that. Ewald on page 62, the new brush truck. I think that's all I really have. Some questions or?
I had a question on page 67, just curious, let me just find it here.
Sure.
Oh, under library light maintenance, 179.84. I'm just curious what that is.
Nichols, I know they're the ones who do all the lights, so I'm not, they had to come off maybe a few, I don't know exactly what was done.
So maybe something to do with the
So
electrical.
I'm sure it
Okay.
was a quick maintenance thing.
Just curious. I didn't know if that meant cleaning or what that meant.
No,
so-
they're the ones who do all the electric and, who do all the lighting.
Okay.
Mainly,
Did
yeah.
you have any other questions, Patrick? or-
I do not.
All in favor of approving paying the bills, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Motion.
Pardon?
Make a motion. There was a
Oh, I'm
motion.
sorry. Patrick, would you like to make a motion to
Yes,
approve the
motion to
bills?
approve the
Why?
bills.
Okay. And I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. Final, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you all.